It's just me again. I've been on a horror movie binge, and Callan's been busy with school. I don't think you'd really like these films anyways. I heard a lot of hype about this movie going into it. It is a Spanish film, so I did watch it with subtitles. Now, mini tangent here. It was so fucking hard to find English subtitles for the Spanish audio film. Like, every single place, like Amazon and YouTube, it would be English dub, and it sounded so bad. I don't like dubs. I just find them, even if they're well done, just sounds so out of place. So anyways, it took, I swear, at least 30 minutes to find like the original Spanish audio. And uniquely, well, maybe not unique anymore, but at least at the time, it's a found footage film. Now, I haven't seen any found footage horror films. I know Blair Witch is like the most popular example of that, I think, and maybe like Paranormal Activity, but I've never truly seen them. I just know about the genre, and I know what's usually said about the genre. And I have to admit, I don't think I'm a fan. I will say, I think this movie, the way they handled it very well. Basically, it's framed as our main character is a news reporter, and she is behind a cameraman the whole movie. So they're filming for their local show, and they're filming a fireman crew, and then that progresses into like the horror elements. So there's a reason for them to be filming. I know that's said a lot in some of these other found horror movies, like why are they recording? And there's some scenes that just like don't make sense. Like who's filming this right now? So I think they did a good job with that here. It never really felt like why are they showing this? Or why don't they put the camera down? So anyways, getting right into the meat of it, this fire crew heads out to a person trapped in their apartment, and that person turns out to be infected. So right away, this infected old lady bites one of the policemen, and this is all taking place in like this apartment complex. And I think this is the strongest part of the film, the setting. It's like this apartment complex with not many families, and it's got like the spiral staircase and then the penthouse at the top. Like pretty standard, I think. I don't know. But it was a really neat like vertical setting to have for the events that take place. So this officer is bitten, everyone's freaking out. They try leaving, and it turns out they can't. There's like SWAT teams showing up around the building, and they're blocking them inside. And all of a sudden they start saying, our agent will tell you what to do from here. So it turns out the policemen on scene are working with these SWAT guys. They knew what was happening the whole time. They're being quarantined inside this building because there is an infection on the loose. Clearly this old lady had that infection. Now what I just said summarized the first, I want to say like 30 minutes or 45 minutes. It's a long time. I think this is part of the reason I don't like the found footage style. Because what happens is most of the scenes is the reporter trying to interview people, retaking shots, telling the cameraman, oh, get this, make sure you're recording. And it just feels, it's annoying. I felt annoyed with the main character. I know she's just doing her job, but constantly she's like telling the cameraman, what are you seeing? What's happening? What's this? Get a shot of this. Let's interview this person. And a lot of it felt kind of pointless. Honestly, a lot of the side characters felt pointless because there's all these other people in the apartment complex that don't know what's happening. They've been collected on the bottom floor, and they're kind of like awaiting orders from the policemen, trying to figure out what's going on. So they're all interviewed. Every single person there, except for maybe the doctor, owner of the building guy, everyone there is cannon fodder for the movie. Like they're there to die, and none of their stories go anywhere. And it's kind of a shame. It just felt like, okay, why did we interview all of them then? It felt like padding. Because there's this Asian family, and there's this like racist old guy who doesn't like them, and there's this older couple that are just like arguing with each other. So you can feel like they have characters, but then they all just die. And even worse, some of them just straight up disappear. I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. Basically, the big reveal happens when the people outside send in a doctor to check on everyone and to give them the all clear, basically. If they're not infected, they could all leave the building. But what ends up happening is the cop, and there's also a dead fireman too who fell, turn into zombies. And I know they're not technically zombies. They're like possessed or infected. I'll get into that later too. And they kill and they bite other people, other survivors. So now it's like, oh boy, this is a zombie movie. And yeah, from there on out, it's just running up and down the stairs for seemingly pointless reasons. They're sent up to get the Asian family's grandpa, who didn't come down with them because he's bedridden. And then there's a part where they need to get the keys from the doctor's apartment. And then they have to go back downstairs because there's like a secret escape tunnel or something. So while the setting is cool, I think really all it did was confine them and kind of make it like they have to keep running up and down this building. And this is the part where everyone just kind of dies. Besides the doctor, no one else really felt important. The old lady and her husband literally vanish. I don't think I ever remember seeing them die. The health inspector guy is bitten, and basically once they're bitten, they just abandon them. They either handcuff them to something and let them turn infected, or they lock themselves in a room and they're basically just dead. Like, they're just abandoned. So that's the rest of the movie. Everyone becomes infected except for the cameraman and our main character. At one point, there's this little girl that's with them, and the mother says she has tonsillitis because she's sick, but it is then revealed that the family dog that they have, the whole reason this building got quarantined is because that family dog was infected with this really bad disease. The dog went crazy and killed everything there. So then all of a sudden everyone turns to the mom holding her little girl, and the little girl right there like bites her mother's face and runs off. And so then it's like, oh my god, so this little girl is like the cause of everything. They have to hunt her down. She's like the main villain. No, they chase her upstairs. She kills this one, the last remaining cop, and she gets like locked into this room with the cop. He like sacrifices himself basically, and that's it. It felt like, why was that little girl there the whole time? And then built up kind of as like the main antagonist almost, because that would have been creepy, like this little zombie girl, almost like a Pet Cemetery. But nope, she's just closed behind a door. That's it, she's done. And at the very end of the movie, they're forced all the way up into the penthouse where it is pitch black, and they find out through a bunch of news articles all over. I really was like done with this movie at this point. Like I lost all interest. I'm not gonna lie. And this is like the big reveal, so I was kind of like waking up a little bit. It's like, oh man, so what's really going on here? From what I can tell, and this required outside research after watching it, but I guess there's like this dude from the Vatican living in that penthouse, and there was this case of this possessed little girl. So he kidnapped the girl and kept her locked up in his penthouse and maybe like experimented on her or something, but basically he just trying to contain her. So that's what started the infection? What was explained, and I didn't get this from the movie at all, but I guess that little girl, like, the infection allows you to be possessed. That's what's really happening. Everyone is being possessed by one demon by this infection. And it's like, what? What? I didn't get that vibe at all. They all just seem like mindless zombies. So finally at the end, there's one last encounter. They have the night vision camera on, kind of like Outlast. And this CGI deformed girl, it's the little girl that the Vatican got captured. But she's now this like grotesque, literally like CGI monster. It looked pretty good. If you guys have ever played The Forest, it looked like one of those creatures to me. The night vision camera definitely helped make it creepier, but just the body proportions were so unrealistic, it was kind of funny. But then there's like this little stealth moment. The camera guy actually dies, and all we're left seeing is our main character gets dragged away into the darkness by this monster girl. And I was just left feeling unfulfilled. It felt all pointless to me. The big payoff at the end didn't feel worth it. Like, okay, there's this little girl that was kidnapped. She grew into this grotesque creature, and now she's like infecting the world, essentially, but they're trying to contain it. But aren't they contained? Like, so our main character gets dragged off. Everyone in that building's dead. Okay. So problem solved. Maybe that's like the most nihilistic view of it, but it's not really a threat. And like I said, the characters just really didn't feel too in-depth. I didn't feel attached to anyone. If anything, I felt most attached to the camera operator. Because the news reporter lady kept saying, like I said already, she's so annoying. She's like, what are you seeing? What's that? When they're trying to be quiet, when they're trying to be stealthy, it's like, shut up for a second. The camera operator kept going, shh. I was like, yes, thank you. There's a serious situation going on here. Stop trying to interview people. Stop trying to get your shots in. At this point, like, I get that her reasoning was people need to see this, but you don't need to be commentating over it. Like, just show what's happening. So at the end of the movie, I was left thinking, because I already knew the Rotten Tomatoes score as well. I know it's very positive from everyone. I was left thinking, why? Is it the found footage aspect? I don't think that enhanced anything. The only part I could see people like raving over was the ending, where there's that grotesque girl, kind of looks like a video game. It literally looks ripped straight out of Outlast. But yes, it was scary. Like, I think it was fairly well done. I kind of wish the whole movie was about that. I wish it was them stealthing through this apartment complex with this grotesque little girl creature stalking them, rather than zombies. This movie combined zombies with infection, with found footage. It's just like the most basic elements of horror, cliches of horror. Nothing felt totally unique. I think they could have pulled it off with the ending. It didn't really add too much. In the end, I was left feeling pretty meh about it. What saves it for me and raises it above average is the setting, the ending. I was about to say like the camera work, but the camera work fucking sucked because since it's found footage, what ends up happening is shaky cam. The whole movie is just shaky cam. And when there's action, there's a part where someone fires a gun and the dude just shakes the camera for no fucking reason. And they added this like really obvious gunfire free sound effect on top of it. It just didn't look good or sound good. So I think you guys know my overall opinion. I give it a 6 out of 10. I think if you like the found footage genre and you don't mind like the zombies, because I wouldn't say it's particularly scary up until that very final scene. I don't know. I'm sure there's a niche in there somewhere for horror fans. I just personally didn't find it very interesting. So yeah, this is what I first saw. 90% critics, 82% audience. Even though the storyline and the cliches can be predictable to say the least, Wreck is still a pretty scary and bizarre film that benefits from the whole camera work and the claustrophobic environment. See? The setting, and although I didn't like the camera work, I feel like if you like that genre, yes, that's definitely a positive. So, for sure. Wreck is one of the few realistic and scary zombie movies ever produced. Just an example of simple but really well executed. And maybe part of it for me is also that I just don't find zombies scary. Especially the way they're portrayed in this one, where they're like faster, like they're just humans. They're humans. There's nothing monstrous about them. They're just like really fast and they roar. That was another thing in this movie. Every jump scare was super predictable, and the zombies all make this like weird lion roaring sound. It just sounded so unnatural. Like, just make them sound human. Even the little girl, there's a really funny moment where they see her standing in the doorway and she's wearing like the cliched white little doll dress and like her pupils are weird. It's like, did she change into that? Why is she wearing that? It felt like a parody at some points. And also, just to bring this up, when they were up in the penthouse, which was locked, by the way, they had to get the key for it, nothing should have been in there except for the girl that was locked in there. They look in the attic quick, and there's this jump scare. There's a little boy hiding in the attic. Where the fuck did he come from? How did he get in there? Was he locked in the dude's attic? I mean, it could have been the case. And then also, why didn't he come down? He just stayed up there. It just felt like a cheap scare for no reason. And so did a lot of this movie. A lot of it felt like it didn't have a reason. And I think that's kind of why the ending fell flat too, and the whole explanation. It just didn't feel connected to what was really happening. I think it should have just stayed at their dog got into something kind of like Cujo. He got bit by a bat or something, became infected, and now it's spreading. I think that would have been more realistic and therefore a little more scary, rather than some infection that makes you able to be possessed by a demon. It's just kind of out of left field right at the end of the movie, and then it ends. This film is the perfect argument for the found footage genre. Distinctive characters with reason for the camera to roll and seriously nail-biting moments attributed to the hand cam style. A slightly annoying addition at the end, but I cannot deny that the ending piece is petrifying. Exactly, this dude nailed it. He gave it 4.5 stars though, because he enjoyed the found footage style, and I just don't. I think that's my main problem. But yes, there was a reason for the camera to be rolling, I felt like. It was justified. And yeah, the ending felt out of place, but it was legit the most terrifying part of the film. Rec manages to build up scenes of tension on occasion, but they don't come often enough to make sitting through its one-dimensional characters and underwhelming story payoff worthwhile. Exactly. That's another thing. It felt, and I find myself saying this a lot, it was only an hour 18 minutes actually. I forgot. It felt way longer than that. Just because of the unnecessary... It wasn't really building up tension. They were trying to, I feel like mainly just justify why they're filming. Because they weren't building up the characters at all. There's no character arcs at all, I felt like. And they're not building tension. The only times they would do that was briefly right before a jump scare. It was that moment where you hear the movie go silent, and you're like, okay, here it comes. So yeah, I felt like the ending could have worked as a short film. There you go. Just throw that scene up on YouTube, boom. And I'm sure that was probably the trailer, right? It was just that end scene with the night vision and the weird CGI monster, and she gets dragged away. Guarantee you that was the trailer. Another found footage film bites the dust with a tedious, predictable plot and an annoying female protagonist who screams 90% of the movie is anything but scary. Now, while I've called the protagonist annoying, because I found her really annoying, it wasn't for her screaming, because that's realistic. I felt like when she would panic and scream, of course she would, because they're zombies and they're ripping people's necks open and stuff. It was more so when people were trying to do their jobs, and she was up in their face with the microphone trying to get an interview or just getting in the way. And like I said, prodding the cameraman, hey, what's going on? Just kind of killing the mood almost. Just wanted her to shut up. My best guess is that was supposed to be realistic. They were trying to portray how she would be acting in the scenario. News teams often are annoying and kind of in the way. So I don't know if I can fault the movie for that or just myself, because I just found myself overall being annoyed with it. Reading these reviews, a lot of the positive ones that I'm seeing here, it's really just for the style, and it's the king of the found footage genre. Maybe at the time that was true. I don't know. I guess I would have to watch more movies of the genre to say for sure. I just don't think I'm a fan of that style. At the end of the day, I'm glad I didn't force Calan to watch this. I think he would have hated this movie even more than I did.